This is The Fifth Estate, a conversation between young African scholars from the Fort Hall School of Government and Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. This Sunday, we will return to game theory. This is the only theory that will explain the NASA suspense and the Jubilee dance of this week. In this theory, we will play the election forward and then explain it backwards. Put differently, we will take you forward to September 2017 and then walk you backwards to today. We call this reverse engineering. This way, we will explain what is happening today using a picture of how tomorrow, which is after the elections, will look like. If Raila is president in September, what will the country look like? Why are some people scared of a Raila presidency? And if Uhuru is re-elected, what will the country look like? Will it stop hurting and heal, or will the wounds only run deep and hurt more? Or maybe the country will finally take off and change. But what do you wish for country?
In order to play it forward, to understand it backwards, let us begin with President Raila Amolo Odinga. The date is September 19th, 2017. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta has just lost the Supreme Court petition against Raila. And on this date, Uhuru Park is abuzz with frenzied activities as Raila takes his oath of office. What looked like a bridge too far for the Odinga family has finally been conquered. They have finally taken over State House. In the meantime, Kalonzo has taken over Ruto's office at Harambee House Annex as the new deputy president. And Parliament is scheduled to create the position of Prime Minister for Mudavadi as promised. But there is a problem. NASA does not control 2/3 majority in Parliament. They cannot create this position. The best they can give Mudavadi is the position occupied by Eugene Wamalwa in cabinet. But to make it desirable, they decide to pimp this position to look a little bigger and better than the Eugene position. And as the Odinga presidency settles, the truth about the NASA swindle begins to show its ugly head.
The date is October 20th, 2017, and President Raila Odinga is presiding over the Mashujaa celebrations at Nyayo Stadium. First Lady Ida Odinga is as elegant as always in her support of Baba, the president. They have arrived. But the opposition, led by former President Uhuru Kenyatta, has boycotted the national celebrations. According to the new Jubilee opposition, the NASA speed of eating corruption is the worst ever since independence. Jubilee opposition is therefore protesting the 60 days of NASA corruption. There's tear gas on Uhuru and Ruto as the protests intensify. But there is a bigger problem. Raila promised Mudavadi the Prime Minister's position. And 60 days later, he is still giving Mudavadi the Kitendawili stories. Like the Kalonzo MOU of 2013, Raila's deal with Mudavadi 4 p.m. position is a lie. And as history has taught us, Raila's way out of this lie is to cannibalize Mudavadi. If he ate up the original Pentagon, he will eat up the NASA Pentagon, and he will start with juicy Mudavadi.
We submit that 27th of April is just a hoax. It will come and go. There will be no candidate. They have done this before, they will do it again. If NASA wants to give us a candidate on Christmas Day or after the election, it's also fine. But second, we discern that someone is cheating someone in NASA. And our fear is that Raila is the one being cheated. His strategy is to delay the naming of a candidate until it is too late. But the strategy of the Fellowship of Three in NASA is to do exactly the same thing. Kalonzo, Mudavadi and Wetangula intend to announce their NASA candidate at the 11th hour as well. And it will be too late for Raila to bolt out. And in the end, the joke will be on Raila. But Baba is a foxy guy. He's suspicious of this Fellowship of Three. And to defuse their schemes, he introduced Isaac Ruto and the Pentagon as a decoy. This is, in our view, the first sign of Baba breaking.
This week, a Rift Valley politician with 0 votes was recruited as the 5th NASA principal, and the question we ask is why? In our view, Raila discovered that Kalonzo, Mudavadi and Wetangula were conspiring against him. And so he hatched the idea of expanding the number of NASA principals in order to dilute their influence. The more the NASA co-principals, the stronger Raila becomes and the weaker Kalonzo and Mudavadi become. And because Isaac Ruto does not want to become a NASA presidential candidate, he was just rented to dilute the influence of Kalonzo and Mudavadi, period. But what about the 27th of April? Will they announce a candidate? There are two possibilities here in my view. One, maybe they have created the impression that they are breaking apart so that when they unite, they will be unstoppable. That's one possibility. Number two, maybe they have no clue where they're going. And maybe 27th of April will be yet another big fat lie. Also a possibility.
Now we will digress for just a bit and pose some questions. Why the violence in ODM nominations and in Jubilee primaries? We have a theory. In the past, we have submitted that if you introduce a scarce resource in an environment of scarcity, the result is conflict, zero option. We have also said that if something is desired by two people and only one person can get it, the two must fight it out. The violence in Jubilee primaries is therefore not different from that in ODM primaries. In fact, Jubilee borrowed the violence from ODM. And this is so because a Jubilee nomination in an Uhuru stronghold or an ODM nomination in a Raila stronghold are scarce resources. To get them, you must fight it out. And the logic is simple. If Uhuru says yes in Jubilee, nobody can say no. And if Raila says no in ODM, nobody can say yes. ODM should therefore stop insulting our intelligence by suggesting that violence is a Jubilee affair. It is a problem of scarcity, regardless of party.
Now we must return to game theory. We must distinguish between the real games and the fake games. In our view, the ODM games are real. Paul Otuoma leaving Baba is real. In fact, we expect Jakoyo Midiwo to defect as well. The Odinga empire is being tested and its collapse is imminent. However, the failed Jubilee primaries are fake. They were cleverly engineered to fail, and to fail chaotically, dramatically and dismally. Let me explain. As we speak, a failed nomination just happened, but who kept the results of the cancelled nominations? These results are in the safe hands of Jubilee leaders. The leaders were meant to profile the candidates and determine who will win and who will not. The fake nominations were meant to show the popular candidates and the useless candidates. This way, the party would have intelligence on who to invest in and who to ditch. If the Jubilee primaries had rigging therefore, that was fake. The actual and clever rigging will happen in the second round.
As the rest of the country is holding its elections on 8th of August, Jubilee and ODM strongholds will be holding little general elections next week. If you win in these little general elections, then the 8th of August will not matter. And this is probably why there is violence in the Jubilee and ODM strongholds. But there is one more thing. These parties are holding little general elections without the mechanisms to handle such a task. Then they have been convinced that party primaries must be transparent and democratic. Yet this is not true. It's not a historical truth of political practice. Raila, for instance, will force his relatives on voters, give 800 nominations to friends, and there is no rebellion in ODM. Why? He has understood the Indian truth of the jungle. If you go to an Indian forest, all the straight trees have been cut. It is only the crooked ones that are standing. And in party nominations, there are no systems. Only the crooked survive. If Jubilee therefore goes into these primaries with this Indian truth, they will overcome. But if they approach the primaries like holy monks in support of democracy and transparency, they will fail. they need to borrow from Raila. In ODM, violence happens because Raila tolerates it, not because it is a rebellion against him and against his systems.